Hello and welcome, Azam and Loka. Can I ask you guys to introduce yourselves before we get started?
My name is Azam Ali. I'm a singer and composer with the group Niyaz.
My name is Loga Torkian. I'm from Iran originally and Azam's partner in Niyaz and in life.
Okay, so I think my first question is just kind of like a journey. So I wanted to know what led you guys to the unique medium and the combination of mediums that you have as part of the Niyaz show.
Well, the current show is an immersive multimedia show where we combined interactive visuals that respond to sound in real time and sound and movement. And we have, it's a live music performance at the end of the day. That's really what it is. And also we have a Sufi whirling dervish, so that's the element of movement. So the idea is to combine the different art mediums in order to create one experience.
I think that's fitting then that we have the artwork of Lafayette to frame our conversation and her response to sort of Morocco and Orientalism.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, her work, I really love her work, and I think she's so significant during this time where we're trying to reshape the image and the ideologies around Orientalism.
Absolutely. So just speaking of sort of ideas and ideologies, how do you guys frame your influences or the ways that your work borrows from traditions?
Well, we are both for myself, if I may say, also on Azam's behalf, we are both Iranian and American because I lived actually most of my life outside of Iran. Nevertheless, the influences of my living experiences in childhood being there and later on actually studying Iranian music and Western music kind of has reshaped my way of thinking and the way we express it. As an artist, you always have to be kind of honest to yourself, so your work becomes an autobiographical and your work is a reflection of who you are and how you see the world.
Mm-hmm. And how much of this is in the Sufi tradition of things? How much do you borrow from that particular sort of Middle Eastern South Asian tradition?
We borrow a lot from Sufi mysticism and I mean, from the traditions that we all come from. I think, art is very deeply intertwined with mysticism and spirituality, which is actually different from religion, in my humble opinion. But I think that is the most beautiful contribution that our cultures have made to the world. And I feel it's very important to showcase that in a much more secular environment, because art, actually majority of Islamic art is secular, even though people don't think of it as being such. So Sufism in particular, when we talk about it, we're speaking about a deep relationship with poetry and a deep relationship with music, as well as movement. So we are bringing a lot of that into what we do.
Right. So speaking of movement, there's a whirling element of the show. There's a question that was posed to you guys. When was the first time you personally saw whirling dervishes?
Wow. I don't know if I could remember when the first time I saw whirling dervishes. I was very little, I think, the first time. And it's very different in Iran, the way that they do it, than the way the Turkish, what we know as the Mevlevi order of Sufism, which is really Rumi's tradition. That was very different. The first time I saw that, I was a teenager.
Right.
But
that was in Turkey?
That was no. Actually, I think I may have already been in America.
Yeah, I saw it for the first time in
the
United States myself.
In the US was the Turkish whirling dervish.
But it's very important for me to say that actually mostly it's practiced by men. However, the whirling Sufi dervish that is participating in our show is actually a woman, and for us that's a significant point.
Right. Also, another question is your stage performances involve a lot of technology and lights. When you first got started in Toronto, was this what you imagined as being the final product? Yeah,
actually, when we moved to Montreal, about 8 years ago, the very first night that we arrived, she and I, we were in an Airbnb, we sat and said, okay, now we left LA, we are here. what is it that we want to do? And the first thing that we both agreed is that we want to create a multimedia show. And we were fortunate to be in a city that it is very, very supportive of digital art. There's a lot of grant and governmental support in Montreal for that sort of expression and art form. Mm-hmm. And but it took us a few years to really conceptualize it, to really decide what is it exactly that we want to do, what kind of elements do we want to use. You know, we didn't want to just use kind of psychedelic or abstract form just for the sake of having some sort of a visual element. It had to relate to our music, to who we are, and also contextualize the music. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of Islamic geometry and architectural elements. We brought in a lot of the that sort of elements to make it relevant to what we were creating. And
it became to be known as it is known as a digital scenography. So it creates a space for the music mm-hmm. and for the dance, and hence it kind of became the backbone of the show in many ways.
In what ways is this new tour different from previous work or previous tours that you've done?
Well, the visual element.
Yeah, I think the biggest part is just, I think, you know, we are so overly stimulated in this modern age that I think art also naturally is kind of learning how to adapt to the overstimulation. Mm-hmm. And a big part of that is the concert experience. I think people, when they go see live shows, they want something much more interactive to be happening to keep them engaged. So part of that is just embracing the technological advancement of life, mm-hmm. and it has to reflect in art. So that's the biggest change that I think has happened with us, and it's very difficult for us not going back and just doing a regular show. So I think more and more we just want to keep moving forward in this direction of embracing the technology and creating worlds that are more interactive and immersive.
Mm-hmm. So in the world that you create with Niyaz, what is the significance of the lyrical content of the music?
Well, I think if you understand the lyrics, there's probably 90% of the audience that won't understand the languages we sing in, because for this multimedia show, the lyrics are Farsi, Turkish, and Urdu, and Dari also, I should say. And I think if you understand it, then okay, the songs are either based on very old folk songs or very old Sufi poetry that we have taken and written original compositions around. For people who don't understand it, I think it's almost a blessing, because it really becomes about the experience, and it allows for you to just kind of sit there and experience something without any preconceived notions, or music is not just a conduit for words, it's a conduit for emotion and transcendence in many ways. So I think sometimes the language can almost be a barrier. Mm-hmm. So when you sit and you experience a show, it's nice to be able to just travel, and that's what I want for people when they come to our show, is to allow something different to happen to them and hopefully take them to a higher state, for that hour that they are with us.
So what's your kind of favorite music or favorite genre of music? What do you listen to just for fun when you're not performing?
For fun. I actually, of course, I listen to a lot of traditional Iranian music. I love folk music of all regions. I also listen to a lot of soundtrack for films. It's something that I love. The visual element of the music has been very inspiring to me. So those are the type of music that I typically go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me also, I've always loved folk music of every culture, actually, because I feel that especially from our part of the world, classical music often belonged to the upper class, so it never really reflected the lived experiences of people who were actually working in fields and living in villages and the day-to-day lives and struggles. So folk music is where I like to go to kind of know what it must have been like to sing songs while you're herding sheep, I love that. And then I also love all the beautiful Sufi singers like your Abida Parveen and We have also so many from our just different traditions. I love Turkish folk music, and then on the other side, I love electronic music. So of course, hence the music we create. So I listen to a lot of also different electronic artists.
So I just want to kind of ask a more broad question. What is to you the importance of what you do and what you represent as part of Niyaz?
Well, we really believe that in the modern society, in the societies that are secular, the artists do become an ambassador to try to kind of create a new direction and new bridges in society, and particularly art itself is the guide for humanity. And all of us who are privileged enough to be given a platform to express ourselves and to be in front of an audience, we have an obligation to do something that it is of substance and hence helps, as Azam said, to transcend the mind and to allow us to see the world for that few minutes that we are together through a different angle and experience. Maybe we can share in an abstract form our living experiences and create a sense of empathy and compassion and a kind of raise the consciousness just a bit more.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think for me, it's, I started off with one goal and that goal keeps evolving, but I feel for where we are right now in present time, there's so many conflicts taking place. First of all, there's a huge resistance to globalization, but it's here and it's happening. And instead of fearing it, which is what is happening a lot, especially in America, I think it needs to be embraced with a lot more compassion. So I hope that for artists like us, we are able to use our platform as a way to create a bridge between different cultures and different ways of thinking and viewing the world. And for me personally, as a personal artistic goal or human goal, is I'm very much against any form of nationalism and religious identity. I feel that they have both failed in their own ways to do the one thing that they promised, and that is to unite mankind. And therefore I feel that our only hope at this point is our humanity. And that's what I really try to get across in the work that I do, is that our allegiance should first and foremost be to our humanity, not to a flag or to a religious identity. So that's my personal goal.
So can you also sort of speak to the themes of gender equality and the empowerment of women and how you feel those come through in your work?
Well, I think first and foremost, being husband and wife, and that we are both sort of lead captains of the ship that we are sailing is right there. I think symbolic of what we are trying to create as a sort of model for what we would like to see in the world, where there can be an equal partnership, without us having to make any sacrifices for me as a woman or him as a man. And in our life, in our personal life, our roles are very blurred. Sometimes he cooks and does the dishes. Sometimes I cook and do the dishes. And, it's so for me, like, equality can be so many things, as being able to live the life I want to live and the way I want to live it, but at the same time being mindful and respectful of him, and I hope that he feels the same way about me.
Absolutely.
So do you guys have any advice or something you could say to artists who feel underrepresented, whether it's because of their ethnic or national identity or because they're women, just artists who don't feel seen as much?
Boy, that's a hot subject. That's a loaded subject.
I think that one of the things I see happening, and it's something I struggled with in the beginning myself, is that I often felt I had to over-assimilate in order to be seen as an artist and to be recognized in the same way that, let's say, a white artist would be. And I think I eventually came to peace with the fact that I'm always going to be a minority, and I am also a woman, so that's like a double minority. But instead of trying to over-assimilate now, I've embraced that, and I am trying in my own way to show through love and not through frustration that it is possible to rise above it all. And my only advice, especially to women and if you're a minority trying to create any sort of art, whether it's paintings or writing, is just stay very true to yourself, be honest in your work, because everybody has something unique to say, and you can never discover what that unique language is of your expression if you're trying to use someone else's words and someone else's colors. So you have to find your own. So embrace it, be honest, and there's always an audience for honesty, because when you're honest, it resonates to the heart. It goes right to the heart of another human being, and that is really what art is about. It's about a higher communication. So.
Just two things I would add is that always draw inspiration from the positive aspect of your culture, no matter what it is. Within America, all the smaller societies, we all can find strength and a positive aspect of who we are. And once you start reflecting that in your work, not only you're inspiring yourself, but you also will naturally inspire your audience and generate content. There is nothing like actual experience, even if it is that you're creating one simple video and you're putting it on YouTube. The reflection and the feedback that you will get will continuously encourage you and will help you to shape your vision and to move forward.
Absolutely. So speaking of America and the fact that there are minorities and smaller societies within America, do you guys ever feel, given the current U.S. political climate, like trepidation or apprehension about performing, touring the U.S., being who you are and saying what you do with your work?
Sometimes I do. I mean, now it's kind of a scary time, but we are Iranians, so there was never a time in America where Iranians were thought of as, we've always been perceived very badly through the media, and we've been presented very badly in the media. So as an Iranian, not much has changed, but I would say since September 11th, since that whole, it has become more challenging. It got better for a while, and now once again but it doesn't matter, because now Indians are confused for being Middle Eastern. It's just all. And sometimes when we go to the smaller towns, like I tell, in our group we have so many. We have an Indian, we have a Turkish musician, we have our Sufi whirling dervish is black, we have Iranians, and we have Quebecois, and sometimes we get to these small towns in the middle of nowhere in America, and I tell them, look guys, no going to the bar, no going out, you come to the venue and then you go back to the hotel, don't stop anywhere in between, because you just know, you don't want to take risks anymore. But when you're performing, anyone who's coming, hopefully they're coming to have their minds expanded or to discover something new. So not at venues.
But she said it half jokingly, but it is actually important for us to go to those small towns. That's because it does make an impact, even if it's a smaller workshop that it's done on a community level, and you be going there and there are really people that are really curious, that just want to know, and then it gives us an opportunity to, in a very our own little small way, to make an impact.
Well, it's really, social activism became very important to us at some point, because it's very easy to just show up to a venue, do your show, and leave. But how much are you really impacting the community? I think it's through conversations that we have, with either it's students or faculty, or sometimes it's open to the community at large, So doing that kind of work has become extremely important for us, and we invest a lot of our time and energy into doing that, and especially going to these tough parts of the country where a lot of times, we ask high school students, how many of you even know where Iran is, and the amount of hands that go up is,
still surprising.
It's still surprising. So then you realize that is the really important work, because it's very easy to sit and say peace and love, we want that, and unity. But to break boundaries, you have to know where the boundaries are. Right. And you have to create change through concrete, hard work, work that is tangible in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of the new age ways of thinking and, we want love and peace and, let's hug it all out. It's for me, that doesn't work. For me, it takes a lot more about sitting face to face with people who don't share your views. That's very hard to do, and it's terrifying. For me, the most terrifying thing is speaking with high school students, because already they're teenagers and they're too cool, and they're tough. Teenagers are tough. And then you see that wall come down, and it's so fulfilling. I cannot tell you. So those are the things that I feel have become incredibly important for us, and that's what's gonna create change, not us just showing up and doing a concert.
Right.
Yeah.
So in these talks that you have with faculty and students, and also otherwise to the show, what kind of responses have you guys had to the Fourth Light?
Well, the coming and seeing a show is very different than whatever we can describe it as. And, a lot of these series, we've been fortunate that they make the show free for the students. And if there are any students on the campus that is listening to our conversation, I highly encourage them to come and see it, because it's not only very engaging, but it's free. So, and it's a privilege to make it free. I went to UCLA myself, and I remember there were so many concerts that would come, and I really wanted to go see, and the tickets were out of my range, and it was always a bummer. But when I come here and they say, we through grants we were able to make this concert free for the students, I think it's such an injustice if the students do not take advantage of it and come and see it. And so no matter how much we try to describe it, it's going to be nothing like coming and seeing the show. And I assure you, it would be very mesmerizing.
Yeah, but the audience overall, the response has been wonderful for us from the community. But I really think that when we do the outreach programs, leading up to the show, it impacts the experience people have during the show, because it sort of contextualizes our mission and our vision. So I think in that sense, people receive it very differently.
Right.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself and Fourth Light as a project heading in the future?
Well, I think, it's once you create a body of work, it's like any artist, it kind of takes on a life of its own. And like any other life, it has a birth and it has a time to live, and then it dies. And I have no idea when this is going to die, but I just know that we're already going to start creating our next show. I think later this year sometime we're going to start mapping it out, so that we will always have something in the work that I think we're going to build upon this vision, because we have seen the impact it has had, not just as an art form, but as the message that comes with it has been so much greater than what we have created. Actually, it's bigger than us. So we just want to build on that and hopefully create another body of work that has that's going to be just as impactful in the community and in society.
Someone had a really good question. Why is it called the Fourth Light Project?
Well, it's really after Rabia. It's kind of playing with words, but she was the fourth daughter that was born. And Rabia al-Basri is the Sufi mystic and saint and poet who we based our entire show on. And she was born in the 8th century in modern day Iraq. And so we have used her poetry and her life as a sort of veiled story. There's a veiled storyline in the show, and her name Rabia al-Basri means there's the word light. So she was the fourth daughter, and the word light is in her name, so we called her the Fourth Light. So it's her. Rabia al-Basri is the Fourth Light.
Right. And so just as a final point, what would be your message, or something that you would want people who both come to the show or just listen to this talk to take away from interaction with the Fourth Light?
For me, the real message that ultimately I try to impart is to hopefully make people to open their hearts in a way that there's just a little bit more room for compassion. And when you meet people from other cultures, especially those you don't understand, to actually have compassion towards them and towards what it is that may have brought them to your shores, because nobody ever leaves their country because they love it so much and their circumstances were so great. So to have left your country, or your parents having left your country, means that you had to have suffered something, you know, whether it's economical or social or war or so. I think embracing the other with compassion is so important. And that's really the one thing I would love for people to take away from what we do, is just to have a bigger heart, you know.
For me, it would be inspiration. You know, I think if we can inspire the audience and they come and they, for a few minutes throughout the show, they can grab into one of the elements that is there, any of it, that it kind of lets them to be inspired and to kind of feel something more than we've done our job. And that's really, at the end of the day, all we can hope for. I can hope for.
Yeah. Well, this is a really nice conversation. Thank you guys for
Thank
talking
you
to me.
so
Thank you.
much. You asked such good questions, and
Yeah.
whoever wrote questions, thank you.